was 2 years ago. Back then it was Trayvon and Matt Jokel. This year will be probably Foster Sawyer and Kenny Hill. And we'll judge quarterbacks just like we always have in the situation, whoever makes the rest of the offense better and who can lead the team and make the less mistakes. And so we'll go into it. I think it's going to be a healthy one. I thought they really improved in the spring. I think we have an opportunity. I think they had a great summer. And so I'm kind of like everybody else. I'm kind of excited about this season. I felt like 2 years ago, this season, this group this summer was like 2 years ago coming off a 4-day year. I thought it was a lot more attention to detail, a lot more work being done. I thought last year we didn't do as good a job of that during the summertime. And so, I'm really kind of excited to see what all unfolds, because it's easier when you have unknowns as a head coach. I actually have a lot more energy and more excited about this season, I think, going into it than I was a year ago. So here we have a couple weeks, we'll get ready to get it.
Okay, we'll take questions for Coach. If you'll put your hand up, we'll get a microphone to you. Got a question about halfway up in front here on the left-hand side, Coach. Keep your hand up there if they're coming to you right here. Name and affiliation, please.
Harrison Graham, ESPN Dallas Radio. Coach, everybody talks about losing Trevon Boykin, Josh Dotson, some other guys. Can you talk about some of the guys you'll be getting back, especially the guys you lost to injury last year?
Well, number one, the greatest part about it is, we basically every ball caught and all the balls thrown, every ball caught in the bowl game was a freshman. Austin Slotman, Joey, that's up at Seattle, our starting center. He didn't play the last 3 ball games. Austin started against Oklahoma, Baylor, and Oregon, and so Matt Pryor did. And so the offensive line, the quarterback position, are the 2 places we feel like that we really have to grow up. We have to have some guys. Obviously it's hard to replace a Josh Dotson just on the things he was able to do. But 2 years ago, we didn't know who Josh Dotson was. He walked on at our place and kept growing and kept building, and so. For us to have the kind of seasons going forward, you're going to have that next guy that's going to grow up and do things. Defensively, we're lucky we get back Randy Tejada, which was our best corner a year ago. We lost in the 3rd ball game. We also get back James McFarland, that led us in sacks to go along with Josh Caraway. James did 2 years ago, and then Kenny Iloka. I'll go along with all the younger guys that we have. Really excited about the defensive guys that we got in our freshman class. Just watching them this summer. I think they give us some size and some depth and some length and maybe a little bit more speed to do some things. I think probably the one place that we're paying close attention to is we've had a punter and kicker that have been 4 years into it. They graduated, so we'll have 2 guys that came last semester. They came for a year, and so they're not just true freshmen walking in. So head coach, anytime you have a new guy starting at those 2 positions, you're a little bit worried. But it's like I was saying earlier in my statement. I really like the way this team has approached the summertime, and sometimes you get a feel from your team. Well, here comes 2-a-days, and this group has not been like that.
Got a question on the front aisle right here.
Hi, Gary. Suzanne Halliburton with Austin American Statesman. On the quarterback situation, do you think it would go up until your first game before you name a starter like it did 2 years ago, or do you feel confident enough in both of them that you might want to name it?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. That one went to about a week and a half before. We'll see how they approach it and see how our scrimmages go. Both Matt Jokel and Trayvon 2 years ago, really in their numbers throwing it and everything else, were very close. Where it became very apparent was in scrimmages how well Trayvon did with the offense. And so, I hopefully expect that one of those guys, and hopefully both of them, because that'll make us a better football team, will both step up and become that guy going forward. But, it's really been amazing how much both of those guys have changed their bodies, because Kenny was out for a season. What they look like right now compared to what they looked like a year and a half ago. So we'll see how it goes.
Question on the outside left.
Yeah, Nate Fain, Game Day U at the University of Oklahoma. Coach, you pretty much are starting with a clean slate on offense, but because of some of the injuries last year on defense, you had a lot of guys gain a lot of experience. In what way do you think that side of the ball will be able to help with some of the question marks on offense?
Well, you know, it's I think sometimes when you have a younger football team that's played, they're still in a situation where they want to become great, and they don't know who they are. And I think that helps you sometimes, as long as there's a confidence level. If just watching the summer, watching them, if it's any indication, I think there's a bunch of them that'll have a chance to step up and be. We had to play a lot of younger players, and that means they're not as strong as they need to be. So you had a whole spring to get stronger. You also had a whole summer to get stronger, both the offensive line and wide receiver positions. One of the things that we have is that Sean Nixon will not go through the season because of an injury. So you know, we've got to find a number 2 tailback behind Kyle Hicks that's here at media today. And so you know, as all teams do, you know how you replace those guys, how you move forward, I think is the kind of season that you have. And you know, we've always been one of those places that we didn't hold anybody back. A lot of times, a lot of people say, well, we're going to play with, you know, I go to the national convention and the guy says, well, we got 18 starters back, we're going to be good. Or I go to the national convention and we lost 18, we're not going to be good. And you find that you don't keep your job very long if you approach it that way. You know, we've been here 19 years, and you know, our first set of seniors are now 40, 41 years old. And so, you know, won't be our first rodeo. And on offense, we've got to push the pin and make sure that our kids understand we're just like everybody that came to this media day today. They feel like that if a couple things go right, they can win the conference title. And we understand possibly early that we won't be as explosive maybe that we were before, but I'm not going to tell them they can't be. I think, you know, we've got some tough games. I think we have a tough September. You have a South Dakota State team, which leaders in 1AA, but they've been in the playoffs. They beat Kansas team early last year. You've got Arkansas coming to town. You have Iowa State, which has a new head coach, and I thought they had some good players. Then you've got Oklahoma, and you have SMU, and we have SMU on a Friday night. The last time we played SMU there on a Friday night, it was one of the more physical ball games that I've been in since I've been at TCU. So our September is going to be a tough one going into the rest of the Big 12 schedule. So last year I felt like we could ease into it a little bit. This year or 2 years ago, and then last year we had our first Big 12 game, Texas Tech, on the third ball game. So I mean, for us, every year is different. But I go back to it. I really like the way our kids have approached the spring, and really how they have approached the summer, and then going on. And, you know, I sat up here and I didn't tell you that a year ago. And so I think that's going to be very important for us to understand going forward, that you got to win as a team, and when you don't have some of those guys that stick out that we had a year ago that are All-Americans. So it's kind of fun. That's kind of what makes coaching a lot of fun, is when you have a group that will do it as a group. They don't feel like they do it with individuals.
We have 2 questions on the aisle.
Gary, Barry Trammell with the Oklahoman.
Hey, Barry.
You and Baylor have had some great battles in recent years. You and Art had a spirited coaching rivalry. How strange is it now that you're in a season in which he's gone and what he built at Baylor is sort of in flux?
Well, number one, Baylor's a good university. I have a lot of Baylor friends, and Jim Grove and I have known each other for a long time. We were on the ethics committee together, went on trips, him and his wife, trips, and he's a really good football coach. I think you'd be nice if you didn't understand. He's done a great job every place he's ever been. And so, you know, one thing is Baylor is a good university. They're a good football program. They got really a lot of good players coming back. I don't see that changing much.
Right, next.
Hey, Coach, Jenny Carlson with the Oklahoman.
Hey, Jenny.
Hey, there's been some talk about how the championship game is going to be formatted, whether there's going to be divisional play or how that's all going to work out. What would be your preference about how that would be set up?
Well, I think whatever it is, it has to be set up to understand we're doing all of this so we can get in the 4-team playoff. So I don't think that you can say that you can divide it north and south. I think, you know, we're going to have to use some a lot of thinking, a lot of thought process into how is it, you know, because for me, just looking from for 2 seconds, because I'm not in control of it, so I don't really think about it much, to be honest with you. If you had an undefeated team, then I'd say you don't need to play it. You don't need to be in a championship game. Because I watched the Missouri-Kansas teams. One beat one in the regular season, then one get beaten in the championship game when they played it, and then they didn't get a chance to go to a BCS game. So I think it's a negative. If you have two tied teams, then I think a championship game will help us do things. But you can't have one that's 11-1 going in the championship game and the other one be 7-4, because then in the computer rankings you're going to hurt yourself. So we've got to use some positives and some thought process of how are we going to set this up that we can help our conference get into the 14 playoff. And I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect answer to that. It's kind of like adding teams. I've been in we've been in 5 different conferences, and we've done it about every way that you can. I don't think there's any tougher way of playing it is when you have to play everybody. Because what people understand, it's not just the first year, it's you can't fool them anymore. You've got to play everybody every year, and you've got to play them every other year at their place. And how do you find a way to do that? Because after a point in time, it just comes down to players. Because you've used up a lot of your ideas over 3 or 4 or 5 years. And so it comes back to how we're going to do this. You don't play somebody every year. It's a lot easier when it comes to schematics because you can come into a game plan they wouldn't be ready for. But when you played somebody 5, 6 years in a row or 10 years in a row, that's a lot harder.
We got a question on the left, and then we'll move to the right.
Mac Engel, Fort Worth Star Tiger. Gary, previously you had mentioned that you thought TCU would be in a better position once you were fully vested revenue-wise with the conference. You're there now. What can fans expect to see that's any different than we had previously seen now that you're making the same amount of money as Texas, Oklahoma, or anybody else that's been around longer?
Well, I don't know. This is our first year that happens. So, the thing about TCU has always been when we build facilities, we don't get a chance to borrow or bond it on the athletic side. Everything that we do, we have to raise up front. So I think the best thing about us going forward as far as we're going to be able to take care of our coaches better, we're going to be able to take care of our athletes better, because everything we've done up to this point, our new stadium, weight room, locker room, training room, equipment room, indoor, all of it is paid for. Our new recruiting room that we're putting up, all has been raised with private money. So everything we're going to be able to use going forward is going to be able to keep, you don't have to wait as long to get it. I think it's going to help, but I think also keeping coaches, I think also being able to take care of your student athletes better from that part of it. And we're on as far as the foundation, as far as one of the things I said when we came into the Big 12 conferences, there's not even a question whether you should do it. The university financially is going to be on a lot better ground as far as its athletic programs are concerned, but my job just got harder. But that's the way you want it, because we got a better opportunity now to play for a national championship because of who we play and we do things. So we're fully vested and do all of it. Your chancellor and the head coach, the athletic director and the board of trustees will take care of all that. But it really makes a lot different because we basically had our own TV because the university had to spot TCU athletics, and now we're going to be able to stand on our own.
Hey, Gary, it's Brian Baldinger here from Fox Sports.
Gotcha.
This side over here, Gary.
Okay.
Right-hand side.
Right here.
Gotcha.
Hey, you talked about the schedule here, Gary, and you get to play everybody. You also get to see a lot of returning quarterbacks from a year ago, Patrick, Seth, Baker. How would you evaluate the conference's crop of quarterbacks as you get ready for the season?
Well, obviously, you think I'm going to give them bullet point material? Obviously, they win a lot of football games. And you have to go ready to play. Obviously Baker did an unbelievable job. Oklahoma got in playoffs. Patrick's been burning it up. So, when you play in this conference, you've got to understand you're always going to play great skill players. You're always going to play great quarterbacks. It's one of the reasons why we've always played in a 5 defensive back system. That's because you've got to be able to give people different looks. And I want to practice every day what I do all the time. But you've got some unbelievable offensive minds in this league. You count Oklahoma State. You just go down the list, everybody presents a different challenge. And every year, just like I talked about before, it's you got to put yourself in a position that you can take some things away if you can. That's one of the reasons why we put so much of a premium on speed in our secondary and on our defense, just because, and give up a little size just for the simple reason of what these offenses can do to you. And you have to chase down, you got to chase down quarterbacks. It's that 12th guy that can run the football all the time. And in both Patrick and Baker's situation, they both can take off the football. And so, you know, it's anytime that you have to defend a guy like that, that always causes a lot more problems.
Got a question on the left side.